I'm Charles Hartley. They call me Charlie because I think it's more personal to be Charlie instead of Charles Hartley. Born and raised in Elmhurst, Illinois. Went into the service and served in World War II in combat engineers, 598th Battalion attached to the 8th Army. And I want you to all know that the military is not as bad as they try to make it out to be. You learn an awful lot of good things in your life because of the fact you're still at the teachable age, and when you graduated from high school and you go into the service, you really learn a lot of things. So I'm 94, and it's my birthday today. I want you to know that. I was born, and it was June 28th at 12:28, but I don't know if it's AM or PM. So it's one of those things that they didn't put it on a piece of paper.
How did you select your service?
Well, I thought to myself, well, I'm not going to go into the Marines because I won't fit the statute that you're supposed to have for being a Marine. So I says, and I really didn't want to fly, so that left out the Air Corps. So I thought, well, what the heck, I'll go in the Army, and I joined the Army, and we were given a 30-day leave after graduation, and we reported to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, for 6 weeks basic training. And of course, in July, in St. Louis or Missouri, whatever you want to put it, it's pretty hot there, and pretty dirty, and pretty crummy. But thank goodness we only had 6 weeks of that, because of the fact that they needed men in the South Pacific. So they pulled us out, put us on trains, and they sent us to Fort Riley in Seattle, Washington. It was an engineering school. And we did amphibious training, besides going out on rifle range and marching. Before we got aboard our ship, they gave us great big overcoat, great big gloves, great big helmet, and we started going to the northwest. I said, oh my God, we're going into the Aleutian Islands. We met our convoy up there, and then we headed for Okinawa. And when we got to Okinawa, we started putting down landing strips. That's what we did, landing strips. So the fighters could come in from running to Japan, come back without running out of fuel, refuel, get a new bomb load, go out, and they could make 2 runs in one day. And it was like a beehive. They're coming in and going out, coming in, because we did foxholes at night, because they would come out at night. And you'd be in your foxhole, and you didn't get too close to the ocean, because the fact that if you got too close to the ocean, your foxhole would fill up with water. But you lay in your foxhole, and you don't realize it. You don't have to have lights. The stars, there's so many stars up there, you'll never be able to count them all. But you could always have an outline, and you just watch the outline because you'd hear the goosh, goosh, goosh. And the sand crab would fall in your hole, and you'd lose control of all your systems. It just scared the living daylights out of you. We were notified 24 hours ahead of time that we were supposed to abandon the island. I have no idea how come our captain found that out, but our commander, I should say, not our captain, our commander. And so we started moving our equipment off, and I didn't know why. And so then we found out that we were going to invade Japan. There was an armada of over 300 ships offshore off of Okinawa. 2 of them were freighters loaded with caskets, plus all the Navy big boys with their big guns and all. And on August 12th, I believe it was, that was it. They dropped the bomb. And then we went from fighting them to start rebuilding Japan. And that's what we did. We go out there, and the devastation from the atom bomb was absolutely, you couldn't believe what those the bomb did to a building. There's some articles in my article about, and they actually show the buildings that were just you can't imagine how any piece of steel could be twisted and turned upside down, sideways. It was, and there was nothing really between Yokohama and Tokyo. Nothing. The only things between there was bases of chimneys and I-beams of buildings that had I-beams supporting part of the building. But other than that, so when we got in there, we had to start burying the dead. We had to get the water up. We had to get the electricity up. And we had 14 companies in our battalion, and we worked 24 hours a day rebuilding. And that was our big job, to rebuild them, and we did. We came home on a steamer, and we had I don't know how many men we had aboard ship. The ship was USS Groton, and we came in underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, and when we came underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, there were no American flags, just a little sign up on the top, "Welcome home." And that's all it said. And so we got in, and we were going to go to the dock, and the pilot ships, or the tug pilots, don't work after 4:30. Because the tide is changing at that particular time. It makes it very difficult for them, I guess. So we had to anchor in San Francisco Bay. Well, if you looked at San Francisco Bay, you would see that it goes up 125 miles into the country. So when the tide goes out, it really moving. It really is. So they dropped anchor, but they still have to have the propellers turning on the ship to keep it from being carried out to sea. Well, in our chain locker, the chain locker is where the chains that hold the anchors go down into the forward part of the ship, right at the bow. We had, I think, 25 to 30 general prisoners aboard. And so you got to bring them out of the chain locker, put them on the weather deck, and then take them down to the galley. Well, they don't have handcuffs on; they have leg irons on. The guy in front has it on his right leg. The guy in the back has it on his left leg. These two guys decided this is the time they can get away now, because they were pretty bad, and so they jumped overboard. And as soon as they hit the water, they realized there was no way in the world, with the chains on them and trying to swim without the water carrying them away. They started screaming for help. Well, off to the bow of our ship was, what? Alcatraz. And then, of course, they heard the man overboard thing go on the ship, and they called the captain and said, "You have a problem." He said, "We got 2 men overboard." And so they're trying to get the floodlights on and lower the rescue vessel for them. And the Alcatraz says, "Don't worry, we'll pick them up." And they did. They went and picked them up. So they went from the ship into the water to Alcatraz. All I remember is that I got to tell you that when I was there in San Francisco, this couple, I don't know how long they've been married, but they would take me to different restaurants. And they would take me to a supper club. And they would never let me pay. And people were so nice to you at that time, because what the Vietnam War got over, it was terrible. But the fact they treated us so nice, I don't think I could be treated that nice in Elmhurst as I was in San Francisco. And so Dad says, "Well, you can go to school if you want to." He said, "It won't cost you anything." I said, "No, Dad, I'm not a book learner, Dad. I guess no, I don't think so." So I went to work for Harvester, and I went from different jobs for quite a while. And I got married in 1949 to the love of my life. I had an ID bracelet on, and I was working nights at Harvester. And so I would come home, eat breakfast, and go to bed, and get up about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, And we lived in the last street in Elmhurst, which was East End Park, which they put a pool in 1933, 34, and I learned to swim there. So I'd go there, lay on the deck, and take a nap on the deck. And so when I got too warm, I'd walk over and sit on the edge of the pool and put my feet in it and cool down. And this young lady sat down, and I had my ID bracelet on my right hand. And she looked at it, and she said, "Oh, you're Charles Hartley." I said, "Yes, I am." And I married that girl. Yeah, we had 5 wonderful children. But the fact is that when you think about that particular situation, you think about why I'm here today, because the USS Indianapolis brought the atom bomb to Titanium. And if they had not brought that bomb then, and those 1,200 men that lost their lives to save my life, it was, you stop and think about it, how close you come to death, but you didn't. And I think the guy upstairs has something to do with it. I'm not sure, but I'm quite sure.